Chodesh Tov, happy new moon, wonderful, beloved community. It's so good to be back here with you. Um, I am excited about this month, and as I am every month, this month is a really wild one. So we're going to explore a range of emotions here today. And as I say, every meditation that I lead here, if this is working for you, amazing, wonderful, so glad it's aligned. If this isn't working for you and you need something else, mute me until the Kaddish comes up and just do your own practice. And I want to give everyone the permission to own their experience for this today. We have 153 people tuning in live from all over the world, and I know many other people watching after. And I just want to make sure that you use this time in the way that feels wholehearted to you. So, Chodesh Tov, it is the month of Av. We are still in the Northern Hemisphere, pretty hot. Here in Washington, D.C., it's like been almost 90 degrees every day with almost 90% humidity every day. And it's hot. And I'm 35 weeks pregnant, so it's really, really hot. My wife is sitting in the other room in a down jacket and parka and thermal socks because we need to keep the air conditioning as low as possible. And I'm sweating my way through this summer. And the Hebrew calendar is very aligned to that heat in all the challenging emotions that can come up with the heat. It's not all barbecues and slip and slides, as we talked about last month for the month of Tammuz. It's also a time where our inner light can sometimes get too hot and overheated, and we start yelling at people unexpectedly, or fights break out, or crime rates rise, or wars break out, or all of a sudden we have no tolerance or patience, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So continuing into this month, that theme is still very much alive. Actually, the first 9 days of the month, we're still in this 3-week mourning from the 17th of Tammuz to the 9th of Av. For my Hebrew calendar lovers, that means that we have the next sort of 9 days or so until the holiday of Tisha B'Av, where we're sitting in grief and we're sitting in challenging emotions. And maybe that's happening internally, or maybe we're placing our minds on those so that we have a chance to feel that range of emotion. Or maybe it's just obvious in front of you. And then on Tisha B'Av, it is known as the saddest day in the Hebrew calendar. Dun, dun, dun. And we read the book of Lamentations. Just by show of hands, raise your hand if you've ever read Lamentations. Okay, a lot of people here. Some people know. It is really, really sad. It is like really hard to read without feeling sad. I'll even just read the first couple of lines here. Let me get it up. Alas, lonely sits the city, once with great people. She that was great among nations has become like a widow, the princess among states. It's become a thrall. Bitterly she weeps in the night, her cheeks wet with tears. There is none to comfort her. All of her friends, all of her allies have betrayed her. They have become foes. And it goes on for chapters of really sad text. And I'll just drop the source in here in a second from Sepharia. I encourage everyone to take a look at it because it's really interesting, this spiritual text that is just so sad. And yes, there's a lot in there, Adam, about different interpretations about Lamentations, a really interesting take on it. If you're looking at it from a sort of feminist and women's lens, it's a really interesting read, but that's for another class for another time. Here's Lamentations. And then Av in the Hebrew month is asking us to actually sort of peel away those challenging, tough feelings by the time that it gets to be the full moon of this month. And we have another holiday that the rabbis actually placed on purpose strategically here called Tu B'Av, where we are dancing and we are opening our hearts, and it's actually known as the Jewish Love Day. Raise your hand if you have plans already for Tu B'Av with a beloved in your life or doing something that you love. Okay, not as many hands. Look around the room. I hope that by the end of this time, For the next 15 days, you're starting to plan out something really delightful to be doing for yourself and for people around you that you love, because the rabbis, taught it and commanded it and invited us to place it on purpose so that our tender hearts would have a place to land in a place of love. So this month is a roller coaster. It starts in the grief, in the sadness, in the challenge, and actually brings us down first, even more into Tisha B'Av, which is really challenging, and then tries to bring us back up into Tu B'Av, into this love, and starting us to corner into the fall for the Hebrew calendar, which brings a whole different type of energy. And for those of you who don't know the teachings as well, the Hebrew calendar is like a range of feelings every month, an invitation to explore a different part of what it means to be human. Nothing good or bad, just opportunities to explore. So before we go into our sit, I want us to open the chat and do a little series called Obviously Av. Obviously Av, it's a pun. What are some things in your life or seeing around you that you think are, quote unquote, obviously Av? Some things that are about grief that are going on around us, tragedies that we see, maybe some things that are about love that are going on, maybe things that actually encompass the both of them, both the grief and the love, that contain both of those at the same time. And I'd love for us to just take a couple seconds to locate those in our lives in current day before we go into our internal practice. Obviously, climate change, a lot of feelings there. I totally agree. Actually bringing a child into the world in this time that feels like doomsday with climate feels obviously because it's so loving to have a child, but also kind of tragic to know the climate that they're inheriting. The weather, separation from my family, politics, Ukraine, Israel politics, homelessness, losing a close friend, but also getting a chance to spend time with them. That does sound like obviously Av. Lack of unity, dangers of AI. On the one hand, you can write these amazing poems about your friends in 14 seconds. On the other hand, it's kind of scary. Being alive, banned books, helping elderly parents, the Supreme Court, family estrangement, okay, so we're feeling into this obviously Av moment, a range of feelings, challenges. I want to encourage a couple more seconds here of the second half of the month, the things that are obviously Av, that are about love and intentional love, and placing this encouragement to open to love, especially after the heat of the summer in the Hebrew calendar that's just so intense. What comes on the other side of some of these things? Moving my 95-year-old mom closer to where my sister and I live. Beautiful. New babies. The people working to address climate change. Tending to my flowers, laughing, the high holidays being around the corner. The places of refuge that are existing within our communities. Wonderful friends. Opportunities to relax. How about beloved, sacred, spiritual communities that meet every day, no matter what comes up that day? Gather online together. And if you haven't yet gotten to a place that's obviously Av for the second half of the month, I want to encourage you to push yourself to find it. Not because I invented that practice. Actually, it's a spiritual tradition of the Hebrew calendar to really encourage that love and that open-heartedness. And in a moment, we're going to pause and stop talking and tune into our breath and go through that range of emotions together. Yes, at the well. I feel that too. New communities, this community, gratitude. And this list continues on. A good hug. Thanks, DW. I think that's a great place to stop and tune into our practice today. So I invite you to ground your feet. Allow your eyes to close. Slowly tune out the outside stuff and tune into your inner light, your inner world. Just take a quick scan of your body. Notice the parts of your body that are being supported unconditionally by your chair or by the ground. Any parts of your body that are touching earth. Let's just take a bunch of deep breaths together with open mouth exhales before we even get into it. Inhaling. Open mouth exhale. Inhaling. Noticing tightness in your body, inhaling that in. Exhale, send your breath to it. It's okay if there's other people in your space that hear you doing it, and then they know you're about to start meditating. And just start your practice with your breath. Inhaling and exhaling. And feel free to use those words over in your head as anchor words that keep you to your practice. In this meditation today, I want to invite us to go through the journey of Av together. Just starting with an opportunity to be in your body and being in your breath and opening yourself to the first part of this month. That's about really challenging stuff that exists in our communities and our world. Feel what it's like in your body and in your breath and in your soul and heart center a line from Ecclesiastes. See, O Lord, the distress I'm in. My heart is in anguish. And we'll be here together for a couple of moments, just noticing without judgment of it, just noticing the felt sense of that emotion, anguish. Taking some deep breaths, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling some of that anguish, that pain, that sadness, and exhaling, taking it out of your body. And now I want to invite us to keep going on our journey of this month in no rush, actually, with great awareness. Notice what it's like and how goes the journey for you to get from that place in your heart to a place of open love, dancing, laughing, being with beloved community, being with loved ones. A friend of mine told me that Av seems like an artichoke. You have to kind of peel away the spikes to get to that delicious bite. In the next couple of moments, journey from that anguish and grief into this place of love. Imagine yourself surrounded by people who you love and love you, dancing, playing, singing, exuberance. Knowing you deserve that space. And from that space, we're going to use our breath to send some love out. Inhaling. Exhale, send some love to the people on this call who are journeying with you. Imagine our antennas are reaching each other through cyberspace, where our souls meet on this virtual platform. Inhaling again, deep from your soul. Exhale, send it out to somebody in your life who you want to send a little love to. Imagine the wind just carries them a little lighter. And the last one, we're going to take a big inhale, and then we're going to exhale and send that love right back to ourselves. And if you like, you could take your hands and place it on your heart, or you could imagine a hand behind the back of your heart for you to expand your heart into. And take your time, especially if this is hard. Inhaling. Exhaling. And when you're ready, you can turn the corners of your mouth up to the sky and slowly allow your eyes to open and meet some other eye on this Zoom space and give them a smile. We did Av. And hopefully this is just a taste of the range of expression and feeling and spiritual inquiry and depth that each of us will take on in this month as we do Av together, even in our own spaces, in our own homes, but spiritually aligned in this beloved community. Thanks so much for having me. I love being here with you all. And I hope that everyone feels really obviously Av all month. And passing it back to you, Miriam.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Obviously a rich and deep experience. Thank you so much. Let's turn our all of this that we've been focusing and breathing with you, Sarah. We turn to that realm of loss and remembrance. Now on an interpersonal or personal level to the Mourner's Kaddish. And we'll have a chance to chant together. For anyone, again, as we said earlier, as I mentioned, if you are observing Yahrzeit or in the year of mourning for someone in your life, or if you'd like to Kaddish with someone in this community, please rise in body or spirit. And if you'd like, before that, to put the names, drop the names and relationship, if you like, into the chat. Saying Kaddish for today. Yit Gadal,
Gadol Yekadash Merabah, Divraki, Vate, Vate, Kaye Kom, Vimifu, Kaye, Vipur, Israel, Vila, Viri, Viru, Amen. Vashme, Rabbi, Yalam, Maya, Barak, Vishnu, Kaye, Vitaman, Vinaste, Tadar, Vitale, Vitala, Shme, Shalom,
Amen.
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 With that, I want to thank those of us who might have to be on our way at this point. Thank you for being here with us today, and Chodesh Tov. And if you're able to stay for the next quarter of an hour, we have a really special time to be in conversation with each other, and in particular with Sarah, and to ask any questions you may have about things that Sarah shared with us, the practice that we engaged together, this inviting us into really a drawing forth. This is my experience of what you shared, Sarah, a drawing up of and dropping down into so much of the range of emotional experience that Av invites us to, both in the collective Jewish calendar with Tisha B'Av, the losses, the heat, and how heat, as you shared with us, can an emotional heat and mental heat, all the fieriness of the summertime, and the heat of anger and conflict that can arise, and all of those potentially difficult valences to be with, to actively make a practice of welcoming in, to be with, in a sense, to befriend. And then with Tu B'Av, that lesser known holiday where we invite in love, cultivate joy in the love of being connected with ourselves, with others. And I was struck by, so I'd like to invite anyone to who'd like to drop a question in the chat, or just a reflection on how this experience was for you. And I'll share as best I can from what folks drop in the chat. But I'd like to ask you, Sarah, first. Something that surprised me in my experience in this practice today was the way in which, at the same moment, truly it felt in the same moment, feeling the heaviness in my body of grief and loss and anger, the fieriness of anger, and lightness of joy. And so the witness part, bearing witness to the experience, it's like, wow, how can this be? I mean, real in the moment. And we talk about that theoretically, but I really experienced that, for a few moments, and it surprised me. I'm wondering if there's some wisdom that you might share, or maybe just a reflection of how your experience is of that, and because I think what I want the sort of to draw out of that is how this practice that you've brought to us, in mindfulness practice in general, perhaps, can help us. Helping to strengthen our musculature to hold that broader range, these broader ranges of big and powerful emotions and energies.
Thanks, Miriam. First of all, I got several private messages saying how hard it was to go from the anguish to the love. So can you just, by show of hands, raise your hand if you had the similar experience, that it was challenging, so we can see who else is out there. So there are people out there. So if you felt like you were the only one, look around the Zoom room. I assure you, you were not. I see hands raised. Also, I'm not a therapist. And I'm not a rabbi, and I haven't necessarily studied these in depth. I can speak from my own personal experience. Something that I love about Judaism is that it gives me permission to be full-hearted and just a human being. And something that strikes me about it as a spiritual path is that it teaches me to hold many truths in one hand, that you can also be sad and happy. Someone even posted something that was obviously was breaking glass at your wedding, which I did last year. And I remember that. And we got married on Juneteenth. We got married during Pride Month. We got married in a time where it felt like some of the rights that we had were being taken away from us, that there were things that had happened previously that were so sad and destructive on this day. And also it was our wedding day. And it was so happy and it was so beautiful. And also there was so much struggle that people have had in their lives in order to make me the most free version of my ancestors. And how do I hold that presence of being able to marry the person that I love in front of my community in a spiritual place, and also hold the grief of what it took in order to get to that moment, or other people's existence that were happening right now. And that knowing that there were some people who were watching us get married who were not in the same place, and being under the chuppah and inviting them in, and all those complexities. So that's a great example of Judaism doing that, where it's like, it's not good or bad. It's not binary in terms of your feeling. It's everything at once. That movie, Everything All Together or Everything at Once or something, that was kind of hard to understand. That's life. It's like, there's a lot going on. Yes, there's major things happening. And yes, there are people who are dedicating their lives to making it better. And there's also people who seem like they're dedicating their lives to making it worse. And it's all happening at the same time. And I just feel like Judaism actually teaches us that. And it just gives us time and time again other examples for that. And the Hebrew calendar teaches us that too, that in the times where the sun is the most out and exposed and the longest days with light is also some of the times in the Hebrew calendar that brings us challenging thoughts. And we have to really go through it. And these are totally normal human experiences. And then in the time of the year in the winter where we're void of sunshine, and we just want to eat bread and potatoes and stay inside and wear warm socks and be all meh. It's like the holidays that come in the Hebrew calendar at that time are about hope and about perseverance and about imagining the future and about rebuilding, and some of these things that might go against the natural feeling of what winter time would feel. And the Hebrew calendar teaches us that. So no rocket science here, but I do think that my answer to the question is, your experience, Miriam, sounds very Jewish. And that's something that I love about Judaism as a spiritual path. It's not trying to get you to notice or do anything differently than that. It is complex, that we're partners with the divine, that there is a crack, that we're part of repairing it, that it's not just on us to do it, it's on all of us to do it together, that we're not supposed to go on Yom Kippur and atone for the things that we missed the mark alone. We're supposed to go stand next to everybody else who did it at the same time. And we're supposed to cry, and we're supposed to laugh, and that there's times for all of those things. And I think Av is like the biggest example of that showing up in the Hebrew calendar. And someone asked a question about Tu B'Av. There's a lot on Google. There's a lot on, I'm sure, IJS's website and also at the Wells website. But on one foot, it's in the Mishnah. It's placed there by the rabbis, so it's not a biblical holiday. And it is supposed to be a joyous day that happened around the temple around the time of the grape harvest, to try to get single people to go out into the fields and meet each other and find beloved connection and love and community. It's like the ultimate matchmaking opportunity, and to help other people around you just feel exuberant and joyous and love. So lots more to explore there. I feel like we had someone says, okay, you might not be a therapist, but you are ahead of Dr. Phil. So thank you. I don't know, maybe I just am trying to be really real with what it means to be human. Other questions here, Miriam?
Yeah, it's related to some of the things you've been sharing. Linda writes, thank you for a rich, evocative sit. What comes to mind is that the multifaceted anguish of grief is an expression of ongoing love for what's been lost. Moving us through the process can lead us towards opening again to broader and deeper love for what is, to joy, to new life. And Liz, which is amen, amen. And Liz asks, but that makes the comment, it can be so hard to welcome love when one is used to coming from dark places. Any incoming love can seem impossible or too good to be true or false. So any advice for opening back up to it?
Also, Liz says grief is proof that love was there. That is so beautiful. I mean, I told you I'm 35 weeks pregnant. I am just like a faucet for tears. I mean, I was listening to Van Morrison and Crazy Love came on and I just broke down crying. My wife was like, what is going on? Are you okay? And I was like, these lyrics are just so beautiful. And crying, I mean, the relationship between crying, are you crying because you're sad or you're crying because you're happy? Again, this was her next question to me. And I was like, I don't know, both. But that sensation of tears, that normal body expression, comes to cleanse you or comes to heal you or comes to do something with water, which we're mostly made of, in terms of helping to feel. There's things I can easily cry for things that are so beautiful and loving in the world, and as just as much as things that are just so sad and tragic.
Yeah.
It's just, I think they're related to it. So my answer to how to get from one to the other is probably have a good cry, and maybe some laughter meditation, and a good meal, and find yourself in a ritual with other people that just allow you to be yourself and aren't trying to put other expectations on you.
You know, on that point, Sarah, I add to that question, you know, looking at the year calendar, I'm thinking about the parallel, at least on the 10th day of the month, the 10th, right? From Tubish to 9th.
It's the 9th, but you know, numbers
Sorry,
and time,
the
and
ninth,
starts the night before and sundown to sundown.
Okay.
And what
No,
calendar are we on?
That was the spring, the 9th. So we have the 9th of Av, and then we have the Tu B'Shvat, right? The 9th of the month of Shvat, and more in the time of late winter, early spring, right? Late winter. And the buds are just beginning, the alma, at least, you know, the traditional, the mythic, and truly happens, at least till, until this time, it still is happening. That the almond blossoms are some of the first to start beginning to bud in the land of Israel. And that part of the world in the Middle East. And I'm thinking about if it's hard to go from one to the other, from like being hurt, from loss, from pain, right to open to big love, that budding time, that in between, in the state of all that fluidity, like it's okay and perhaps natural for there to be, well, maybe I can open my heart to receive like this much and see how that goes, and then test it and then see what happens.
There's something that strikes me about this, and I'm scheduled to be here for the meditation for Rosh Chodesh Elul, but I can't promise if other things happen. But it's interesting to go from, okay, so we have the spring, which is like Adar, joy, Passover, freedom, healing from being enslaved into freedom, Sivan, opening ourselves up to full potential, receiving Torah, receiving wisdom, doing it all together, our highest of the highs. And then the summer comes and it's like, oof, crash, Tammuz, burning, grief, tough, Av, tail of that, actually dipping down, doing a little more of that, just to squeeze out the last of it, and then coming back up for the full moon of Av. We just talked about that. And Elul starts the fall. And Elul goes into Tishrei. Tishrei is the holiest of holy months. 27 out of 29 days are holy days. You get the whole lineup: Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Simchat Torah, Sukkot, Shabbat. Just like any day you feel like being spiritual, basically you can do it. And then we have the month of Cheshvan, which doesn't have biblical holidays, has a holiday Ethiopian Jews celebrate in Sig, but it's kind of like a quiet time to sort of integrate what happened in that highest of highs. And I just want to talk for a second about the relationship. I think why the rabbis put the joyous love day is to transition from the feelings that we had in the summer into getting us ready for Elul, which is one of my favorite months. And At the Well is going to have a huge season of the heart forgiveness opportunity for people to explore relationship to self and others before the holiday. But the month of Elul is an entire month where we're taking stock of our year and acknowledging where we missed the mark, so that we're not just strolling up to Rosh Hashanah services. If you go to prayer services, and be able to have your heart open to feel the feelings of that holiday, which are both honeys and apples and beautiful, and also like who's going to live and who's going to die. And that you can't just jump into that work. You need to like ease into it. And so Elul is that whole month. And I think the light part of the month here is like the beginning to peel away and to put yourself in places where you're kind of like forced to throw into it, and put that good playlist on, and like change the radio station to something else intentionally, and then get ready for Elul, which is a month that actually, speaking of weddings, we have the sort of acronym Ani L'Dodi L'Dodi Li, I'm the beloved and the beloved is mine, is an acronym for the month of Elul, which is, in this case, it's not your partner, it's about your relationship with the divine. So the whole month of Elul, you're housed in a beloved spiritual, to use the G word, and God is your beloved as you start to understand places where you have missed the mark and other people have missed the mark, and you need to ask for forgiveness from other people in your life and do that really, really hard work of forgiveness, which is basically just like free falling into hopefully love, that you just have to have faith that there's going to be something there, because when people hurt you, it's really hard to let it go. And that whole spiritual teaching that God is your beloved guide to that free fall, and also to the truth and honesty of places where you might have hurt other people, and knowing that no matter what you did, you're still loved, is a really beautiful teaching. So that's a little prep for Elul, just in case I'm not here. It's there. At the Well has a lot of resources for you on it too. My teammate Jenna will be filling in for me, but I think to me, that's why the playlist changes at the full moon of Av, so that we start thinking like, okay, we made it through the summer, and now it's time for us to turn towards fall, and fall's like a whole different relationship with our heart.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much. This is what you're offering, all that you've just shared is so rich, and gives us so much to, I think, contemplate really and be with.
That is Judaism, the Hebrew calendar, spiritual path, saying yes. This was just I'm a vessel for that teaching today. I did not invent it. It's something that we all inherited.
Yep. So in the spirit of honoring times and cycles, we're going to close out. But there's this phrase in Hebrew, B'sha'a tova, and one of us here wished you B'sha'a tova earlier in the chat, earlier in our session today, which means right in the right time, in good time, that your gestation should come in an auspicious time. Your birth, your baby's, God willing, birth, you should be well and move through such extremes as you birth life.
I take
All
that
of
blessing from you. Hopefully after Rosh Chodesh, so I can be here with you all one more time. So I love Elul, but if not, I'm taking everyone's souls with me into this
Oh,
wild adventure other people have done.
yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone. Take care.
you. And thank you,
Chodesh
everybody.
Tov.
Chodesh Tov, Chodesh Av Tov, and we'll be here again tomorrow for those of you who are able to join us at 12:30 Eastern for this daily mindfulness sit. And again, if you are able to check out more of Sarah's and others at the Well, the teachings on your website there. Thank you, Sarah, dropped it in the chat. And I'll be hosting again tomorrow. So for those of you who are able to join us, I look forward to practicing with you again. Rabbi Shefa Gold will be with us. And again, Sarah, thank you so much. Be well at the well and everywhere. And thank you, Max, behind the scenes for helping us make all of this happen. And have a beautiful rest of your day, everybody, in an obviously of kind of way.